On this episode of Complete Toilet Garage, yeah, having midlife crisis here. On this episode of Complete Toilet Garage, can we take the world's worst Corvette and the world's worst diesel engine and make this Corvette run and drive again? On today's episode, guys, we've all been there. Can't sleep. Your normal nighttime activities haven't, worked. You might be slightly inebriated. And you find yourself on Facebook Marketplace. And what do you find? You find a $1,000 Corvette parts or roller car. And you go, I want to message that guy. And then you wake up the next morning and you're like, I forgot about this. So what we got is a 1979 C3 Corvette. It used to have bone stock, it would have a 350 with turbo 350 trans. In my mind, these are the worst Corvettes ever made from 73 on, basically, when everything got neutered down because of emissions. A buddy of ours had a 76 Corvette. It was a Stingray, the last Stingray. That engine made 180 horsepower. They bragged about it on the center console with a little placard. And then in California, some years, you could only have a Chevy 305 in these things. So, in my mind, they're the worst Corvette as far as performance goes. Looks, not too bad. But we picked this thing up for $1,000 off Facebook Marketplace. Guy was really cool. Backstory on this thing, it's been off the road since 2009. It was a father and son project. They restored it early 2000s. And the guy has had it for about 20 years. So they took out the stock 350. They put in a 383. I don't know if they reworked the turbo 350 or not. They might have. About 09, it wouldn't pass inspection because there's a hole in the frame rail. So the kid took it off the road, sat for a bit, and then he decided to part it out. I'm not sure why. The hole in the frame is totally fixable. You found some rust here on the T-tops. All this is still solid. There's not a single hole. It's just all surface rust. The floors are totally in this car still. They have a little bit of surface rust. Is it the best Corvette? Oh, hell no. Is it manageable and does it have a title, a valid title? Yes, it does. So I know what you guys are saying. Hey, Toilet, what the fuck you guys going to power that thing by? Chevy 305 or 350 got laying around, or one out of a race car or something. Maybe build something up. LS swap it. No, we're not fucking LS swapping it.
But we got a turbo, man. Come on.
No. What are we going to power it by? Well, you just find the finest junk that you find laying around your garage. So first up, we got the 283. And well, that thing's a fucking ashtray at this point. It's been smoked on more than the brisket at Ray Brothers Barbecue. Next up, we got a, Method 307. Just been methed over. It's blowing up. Next up, let's not even talk about this one. This is a Smoky 350 out of the Red IQ0 race car. What's left? Oh, how about an engine you ran for maybe a whole minute total on the engine stand? And a total mystery method bonus transmission you didn't even think you're going to get with the sale. And you mate these guys together and see what happens. Alright, so a little history lesson on the old diesel in case you live under a rock and haven't heard of the worst diesel engine ever made. The year was 1978 and America was going into its second gas crisis when the Iranian Revolution was taking place. Due to this, gas prices soared once again in America, but diesel prices were very low compared to gas. Old has been working on its diesel engine for a couple years now, since the first gas crisis in late 72, early 73. But the problem is GM was a penny pincher on this engine and wanted to be able to use the same tooling as the gasoline Olds 350. When you use the same tooling, you save a shit ton of money. The block was not a conventional gasoline block like most think. It was beefed up, but Oldsmobile's hands were tied, so that meant the diesel 350 would only have 4 head bolts per cylinder. And really, that's what's to blame on the Ford 6.0, because they couldn't seem to learn Oldsmobile's lesson on why 4 head bolts per cylinder is a bad idea. The engine first appeared late 77 for the 78 model year. Sales peaked in 1981. They had about 60% of the total passenger car diesel market. But that's when the penny pinching for GM started to show. The head gaskets would blow out due to the stated 4 head bolts per cylinder. These engines have 22.5 to 1 compression ratio, so the 4 bolts per cylinder combined with the flimsy torque yield head bolts stood no chance. And the other big issue from the penny pinching is diesels never received a proper fuel filter system with a water separator. The diesel was garbage back then, literally full of junk, and without proper filtration, the injection pump stood no chance. Couple this with the owners and mechanics not being knowledgeable at all on this new technology, so proper maintenance would never take place. There were changes made from 81 on up with regular style injectors instead of pencil injectors, injection pump updates, and even a stronger DX block. Also at this time, Olds came out with a somewhat clean sheet design of the 4.3 V6 diesel engine. This engine lasted 3 years from 82 to 85 before GM pulled the plug on the whole diesel program. It was derived from the 350, but a few changes made. First off, it has 6 head bolts per cylinder, unlike the V8. V6 got a serpentine belt system, which was the first American car ever to get a serpentine setup. And there are 2 versions, a rear-wheel drive 4.3 with the BOP bell housing, and a front-wheel drive version that will bolt up the most front-drive GMs from the early 80s to mid-2000s. 1985 also saw a proper fuel water separator mounted under the hood. Unfortunately though, being in 1981-1982, the diesel engine name was leaving a sour taste in the mouth of consumers. Sales dropped steadily, so GM pulled the plug on the whole diesel program in 1985. Just when most of the bugs were worked out, it was the end. Believe it or not, the guy I got this diesel engine from had a friend that worked at the old diesel engineering department, and he came to work one day, no notice or anything, the doors were locked up and chained up. That was the end. Alright guys, new day. Didn't really get too much done on this thing last night. Stripped out the wiring harness. You guys might be asking why he stripped out the wiring harness. Well, A, race car, vroom vroom. But B, this harness, the guy kept the engine harness and the front light harness out of it, the connectors, so I got nothing to connect to. But, being GM's awesome, got that K20 parts truck still from Jungle Arm Freak. And it's got a fuse panel and wiring harness, bulkhead connectors, all in that. So I'm going to go take that and probably just bolt right into place. Then I'll be able to have electrics. You might be wondering why I'm going to go through the hassle of putting in a fuse block and not just put a bunch of switches in and blah, blah, blah. Well, by the time I get done spending a bunch of money on switches, I'll have like another fucking 25 cents in this thing. It'll break the bank. Might as well just use up what I got laying around. It's free. But while I'm at it, that K20 also has a steering column in it. And I mean, that'll be fun making that work with that non-typical GM steering box, but we'll make it work. Might be a little too long. But I'm going to strip out the HVAC box. Same goes with the firewall side and whatever else. Get this thing down to its full race weight. And then it's going to be time to dump that dirty dump diesel into the thing. Oh, yeah. Corvette parts for sale. $1,000. Know what I got? Oh, wait. Sound like a Dodge guy. All stripped down. Gonna make a block off plate for that. Same with the other holes in the firewall, but that's not important right now. I gotta unbury this garage relic finally. I mean, you definitely want to put in a motor that's become part of a scrap pile. But I put a really shitty beach towel over it, so it should be protected, right? There we go, after much fuckery. You can see the garage is cleaned up. Motor and trans are over here now.
Holy jeez. What the fuck is that?
The 4.3, it's run for a total of 1 minute on the engine stand. Otherwise, don't know anything about it. And then we got a total mystery transmission, bonus transmission from a method, because it's got BOP bell housing. And thankfully the motor's still got the very rare and sought after front accessory drive. Olds gasoline guys, look for that setup. The old V8 rear-wheel drive gassers never had serpentine. They always had shitty V-belts. Yeah, let's get it in.
We're pouring oil.
Oh, yeah. That's diesel and transmission fluid.
Yeah. I had many attempts to try and get this running, so, you know, some spilled in valley.
Say your injection pump fails and it starts leaking out. It's got to go someplace. You just can't sit there and keep pulling up, so That's the way they did it. Here, let's just have a hole. Oh yeah.
Don't scratch the fat.
Is that in park? Yeah, it's in park.
Set it on the fender, it'll be fine. Whoop, crap. Don't scratch the fender. Get in there.
Oh yeah. You want to take it? Take it, boy.
What you want to do with it?
He got a little pretty mouth, ain't he?
This is ridiculous.
Oh, dude, the motor mounts just about line up.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, I know this is supposed to go in a G-body. Yeah, this is where the motor came from. It had been an 82 to possibly 85. Some kind of GM G-body. El Camino had it. It was like a 1% option. Monte Carlo had it, I think. And then, of course, the old Cutlass. And I think maybe the Buick. Where we're at, we're using the TH350 like Corvette used. We put the TH350 Corvette mount on the trans. So we're just going to bolt that up into place. Once that's bolted in for alignment purposes, it almost looks like these engine mounts are just going to bolt right up. Like there's no modification required. They're going to be solid mount, but I could care less about that. I mean, oh man, it's going to take away from the great comfort and ride of this fine European sports car. Look at this, boys. Went in no fucking problem. Using the stock mounts. Started working with the firearm accessories. Got to do a little magic there, but it'll be alright. But then I'm like, wait a minute, man. You should really consider fixing the steering first. Get steering in it, or else, you know, can't drive it. I got the K20 steering column here. She's just a little too long, but what I did, this bracket right here that bolts to the column used to come off with tabs on either side and it'll bolt to these holes here. Well, the drop was way too much. It was like the steering wheel was like down here. And then what I did is I just took a piece of 3/16 straight bar, drilled a couple holes, and boom, I got to weld it yet. But I'm not going to weld it until I set this bullshit down here. So, steering column, rag joint. I'm looking at it like, man, you know, not much room. Then I got thinking, I'm like, wait a minute. You need part of a rag joint anyways, and you got the steering shaft out of the parts truck. And then I got to look at it, I'm like, huh, this right here is the same size as this, which the steering column will go to, minus a hole. Well, if I press that off of there, and this in theory should be the same input size, GM never really changed that. There's my piece. I set the depth of the column, either welded or bolted to the shaft. Steering solved for $0 again. There we go. No steering shaft, just a rag joint. And this is the best part. Turn the wheel and, you know, those steering things. Holy shit. That steering box is really worn the out, but it'll be fine. Oh, cool. That's the biggest thing off the list. Next is the drive shaft over there. I got the guy throwing the drive shaft with it, but it bolts on both sides. It doesn't have a conventional press-on slip yoke like a normal TH350. I did some Googling, and it still uses a slip yoke with the Corvette, but it has straps that bolt on here. But what we're going to do is we're going to recycle this TH350 slip yoke off this drive shaft here. It's for one of the race cars, but may work, may not. Let's get to it. If you guys have never done it, GM drive shafts, instead of having clips from the factory, they got this melt-in plastic that sits in a groove internally in this ring here. You gotta take a torch and heat it up, melt it out of there, and then you can press these out. And you just come in here, and you'll see the plastic start dripping out once it gets up to temperature. There we go, it's starting to come out. Woo! Just got hit in the eyeball with that. Definitely want to wear safety glasses. It's just like fucking napalm. Ask me how I know. Alright, well, while it's still hot, get your U-joint out and press it. A U-joint tool, I mean ball joint press. Put that on down there. Put that on there. Can't fucking talk. And set. That grease is a little hot. Ow. What did I just say about wearing safety glasses with this shit? I'll never learn. So we got the drive shaft in finally with a lot of struggling. I found out quickly why it has a slip yoke, Corvette only slip yoke here. The drive shaft bolts to the slip yoke instead of presses in, because there's no goddamn room to get this drive shaft in. So instead of buying a $150 slip yoke, I'm just going to use what I have. I went with Sawzall blade because it's free. So, I mean, you know, just a little modification, so I was able to get the drive shaft back far enough to get the slip yoke slid into the trans, and there we go. And bonus, it makes it way easier for bolting in this U-joint. I know you people on the internet are losing your fucking minds right now. You're cutting up that Corvette, blah, blah, blah. Guys, this thing, the more I work on it, the worse it gets. I mean, yeah, okay, you got that, and, you know, some patch jobs over here. Yeah, that's, you know, that's quality. So, yeah, other than that hole in the frame down there I showed you guys, while I was down here messing with the drive shaft, I found a bunch more holes here. Okay, yeah, you know, pretty rusty. That pressed in with my finger, and then, oh, I pushed all that in with my finger. That's supposed to be closed. Then you gotta really look at the trailing arm here for the right rear. Big hole there, more rot down there, and then there's another hole about that size on the top of the trailing arm. So yeah, this thing is a pile of shit, fellas. It was cobbled together way back when, and all the cobbling is showed itself. But yeah, because we got the drive shaft in now, I was able to quote-unquote mount the transmission. Ow, jack staying in my head.
Hello? Anybody home?
So I just walled out these holes a little bit more. I only got one in, which is good enough because, I mean, really, this housing is stripped right the f*** out, and this bolt's barely holding on. That one's doing most of the work. So, I mean, I distributed the load over here and over here. And then as a just in case, I'm going to pull a David Freiberger here and take some 2 big hose clamps. Just to make sure, because, you know, that 85 horsepower is going to really rip this out. So all this is done finally. It's great to see that everything's mounted. Got the engine in place finally. Just need to, you know, all the washers and spacers, but it's all right. And then the Jew was thinking ahead last night here. You don't want vibrations and stuff on the inside, so he used a rubber sway bar. It'll be fine. But yeah, the motor and trans is finally bolted in. We got a drive shaft. Now it's everything else. I almost got the front accessory system rigged up here. I found a belt laying around that I had. Basically, that's a AC bypass pulley off like a 4.3 or 350. Unfortunately, it doesn't bolt into the bolt hole up there. So I got it through this one here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple brackets that go over to this bolt hole here, and it'll be just fine. And this thing I had to cut down so I could get enough spacing to go forward with it. I had a GM AC compressor in there and it bolted in, but the pulley spacing, it was inset way further. Got this under control. Got to figure out the brakes because I took off the cap and, ooh, yeah, it'll be all right. It's got 4-wheel discs, so it's fine. Got to get the cooling system, which, you know, Chevy truck red. Got to hook up the gear shifter. Got to hook up the throttle cable, which that's pretty straightforward. It will work with the stock bracket, other than I'd need to take that round hole there and make it bigger so the square peg will fit in it, basically. But yeah, stock throttle cable will fit. Oh, got to wire it too, but that'll be easy. Chevy truck harness for the win. All right, this is the harness from the Parts K20 there. A, it's a little more simpler, but B, like I said, now I have connectors to connect to the bulkhead here to power the engine bay. I know you guys are thinking, oh my god, freaking wires. This is so simple. My greasy caveman ass can figure out. You can too.
You fucking greasy caveman!
So obviously, you know, bolt this on the firewall in the stock location that the other one was. It should, in theory, just bolt right in. We'll see. So here's the leg coming off here. It's pretty goddamn simple. Here's all the shit that connects to the steering column. Just plug it in. This one, can't remember. I think that was for dome light, maybe. This simple too. I think one of them's ground. This is a ground. I can't remember what that was. Not important. Light switch. This is the dash. Hook up to the dash. Probably not going to use that. And further down here, you got a radio connector, the power for the radio. You got some footlights and stuff. And then that's the flasher relay. That guy's missing is the buzzer for, you know, key in or lights on. Can't remember what that guy does, but we're just going to leave it plugged in. But it's pretty goddamn simple. And if we want to, we can have turn signals and lights and everything. Road legal. So, got the interior fuse panel in. Like I said, it bolted right in. Routed it up. Got it hooked up to the steering column. I'll have turn signals and high beams and a horn. We got the headlight switch. That connector connects to the dash. Kind of just hung that up. This is the rear light harness. I got it run back up through because normally in the truck it runs down along the frame. Here I ran it back up. She's tucked in nice, so I won't trip fucking dumb caveman feet over it.
The f you call me?
Well, you are a caveman, Sam.
Yeah, fucking caveman.
Got wired up to the rear lights here. But here we go. We got the actual engine bay harness here. There's the bulkhead connector. That's a wiper shit. Doubt it's going to get hooked up because, you know, dry day only car. We got the fuel gauge here. Don't know if I'll hook that up. This just gets mounted on the firewall. I eliminated this shit. That was air injection bullshit. And because of it, I got 2 switched ignitions right here. I just kind of taped them up in case I need them. Might use one of those for the fuel pump, as it's an electric pump. Got an oil pressure gauge right here. This shit goes down to the starter. You got what would normally hook up to the distributor, but that's going to go to the injection pump. Coolant temp sensor, and then this is the alternator. If you're wondering if I'm putting glow plug power in, all that crap, no. As there's only 2 glow plugs in the motor. There's a banjo bolt over here, and then these 3 are all banjo bolts too. So this will be ether only to get this thing started, which will be fine. These engines don't like a ton of ether. They ether lock immediately, so just like a spritz or 2, it'll get running. Well, got all the wiring hooked up, you know, to make the engine run anyways. We're about to go inside and see if the key works and see if this thing still turns over and see if that starter off of Welch's car is still good and it's just a wiring problem. Yep.
Is the starter just a big fat pile of crap?
Fuck yeah.
One more time?
Losing the ground or something?
Yeah, it's because you ain't got your alternator hooked up.
Oh, yeah. That's the whole reason. So, been busy getting some shit done here. Got the belt system all done. Don't mind that beautiful bracket there. So, I mean, that's custom CNC one-off made right there. High dollar.
Patent pending.
Patent pending carriage bolt technology.
Belt system's on there. It's a little crooked, but, you know, considering it won't have the RPM, I think it'll be just fine.
You full of shit. You understand that? You full of shit.
Moved on to the shifter linkage, or well, shifter cable. Look at this shit. It's got gears. Made my own custom bracket right there. Part of an old shifter bracket that I heavily modified and used the hose clamp, and she works no problem. Look at this. Wow. Science. Well, that found more holes, you know.
What you diddly doing, neighbor?
I'm putting speed holes in my car. Makes it go faster.
We moved on to the brakes here. We got brake fluid in there. It took me a chisel, if you guys remember right. This was all rusted in here. I ended up using a half broke dick chisel. Once I got all the big vacuumed out, I ended up having to take a wire brush and go Talon on it then, and I got cleaned up good enough, and seems to have front brakes. This one stops when you press the brake pedal, you know, like it should. You can tell that this one's working over here by the fluid on the ground. It's fine. Oh, and that's locked up too. Go figure. For exhaust here, why wouldn't you use some purple hornies you had laying around for like a year or 2 now? And of course, the exhaust bucket provides like normal. Just build a junkyard exhaust. I went and built a crossover pipe, hook it up to sock-way from driver's manifold. It plugs into the passenger manifold, and it's a single outlet. You might say, why the f***? Because, you know, you got a second purple horny back there. Well, I'm going to just break it to you now. There's your clue. Got the fucking fuel line routed. Got the fuel pump mounted back in stock spot. Pumping out the old trash gas here. And oofa. Fuel pump's on the key. Switch ignition wire there. Don't mind the butt splices, just whatever. Injection pump's wired. Got put on the intake. Really not much. So one of the few things here before I let her down, gonna change the oil. Let's see what garbage comes out of here. There we go. Oh yeah, the finest 20-30-year-old oil ever. Whew, I can't even tell you what this smells like. I've never smelled oil like this. It's almost like varnish with oil, maybe. I don't know. That is f***ed. So this transmission being a TH350, it's got a vacuum modulator on the side of it. It's primitive, but that's how it shifts. It has a vacuum signal, yada yada. Well, it gets bolted in with this small bolt and this clamp. Well, I found out why this TH350 not being used anymore. That's the reason why it's not being used anymore. Someone crammed a really long bolt in the fucking thing, broke it off because it was hitting the transmission, and I believe that's why. So I just went ahead, instead of fucking around, because I found this out after. Can't really drill it because there's no fucking room. So I just went with the tried and true zip tie method. It'll be fine. It doesn't pull out. Transmission leak solved.
1 minute later.
Adding training fluid, all of a sudden, after about 3 quarts, I hear it pissing on the ground. Yeah, it's a bloodbath down here. Turns out I'm an idiot.
No shit.
And there's no kickdown cable in the thing, so it was just pissing out of that hole. So I'm going to go to internet tried and true method of taking a piece of hose, cramming it in the hole because the hook's still there, and putting a bolt in the other end. We'll see how all that works. And there we go. Bolt crammed into a piece of hose, crammed into the transmission. No leaks. Just added a bunch more fluid and nothing's coming out. Yeah. This is falling off the rails right quick today. Added about 4 gallons of diesel to the tank. First off, I had to use a pair of channel locks to get the goddamn gas cap off. You know, that's good. And it's still coming out like varnish gas. It's a little lighter in color now, but definitely not diesel. And it would blow up if I use this. So, fuel tank ain't happen. So, we're just going to try and true hose in the gas can method. Goes on up, traces around the motor over here to the fuel pump, which we're using totally the right size clamps for everything. And we're going from 3/8 down to 5/16, and then 5/16 to 1/4 inch with these big ass clamps. It'll be fine. But look at this. Is that clean diesel fuel I'm seeing? I know, crazy, right? No expense spared for this project.
Spared no expense.
Spared no expense. We spared no expense.
So, alright, we got fuel to everything, got a return line. Time to crank it over and see if we got fucking injectors pissing. So either grounds or something's fucked. God damn it. After further investigation, but I can guarantee you that is the reason. Being the batteries behind the seat in that's why this thing's so fucking thick, and I don't have this thick cable laying around, so I'm going to use 2 pieces of cable, and it's going to make it up. It'll be just fine. Alright, so the new grounds are installed. Yeah, they're right there. They're connected. Gotta crank it over, see if we can get fuel coming out of the injection lines here, and then once we do, crank those down, shoot with a hit of ether, should crack right off. My comfortable sports car here. Oh yeah.
It's about actually the only way you fit in that.
I mean, really, look at all the headroom I got now.
Your belt spit off.
It's the universe saying, hey, don't fucking run the water pump like that.
Yeah.
In 89 to start the world famous only 83 Corvette here.
It's an 88.
88. Brown.
So let's go take a look at your new ride.
It's a truck.
Yeah, the big brown truck.
UPS. What can Brown do for you?
There you
go. It smells like 1983.
The starter does not like either. When it starts going, it stops. It's getting there. Yeah, I haven't tried running that. Yeah, I just did. Woo! I can't believe that's all it was. Had to start with the line pissing.
Just line with, yeah, just to bleed the rest of the shit out of it.
And this piece of shit is yours.
Go swimming.
Go swimming.
It's a strawberry milkshake. It went in reverse. You didn't try drive.
Here's surprise, y'all. Lost all the forward gears, boys.
What? It's the way she goes. Sometimes she goes, sometimes it doesn't. She didn't go. It's the way she goes.
And they just hang in there like they're like an old bologna sandwich or something. You know, you let it sit around there, you get hungry enough, and pretty soon you eat it.
Yeah, so it's been like a week since we got this thing running. Found all sorts of shit to this thing. What we went ahead and done here is you saw the belt was flying off. I think we fixed that. It's been running a few times. It seems to be fixed. Basically, instead of a bunch of nuts,
that is one big pile of shit.
So I took a leaf spring bushing, fixed that, and kind of tweaked some. Took power steering pump puller, pulled that pulley out just slightly, and I mean it's kind of sketchy up there now, but hey, I don't know. Had it running a few times, it hasn't flown off yet.
Yeah.
Power steering, that was easy. This side right here is the stock line to the Corvette. It goes to the steering box, or whatever the hell you want to call that thing. It's a hydraulic assist. And then the other side here of the Union is this guy. That's off a GM power steering hose for, I don't know, a Chevy truck, 99, 07. But basically anything GM, for the most part, other than Corvette, 76 on up, has metric threads. So you can get the line from anything, as long as it fits your area and you have enough room to put a double flare on the other side. And I just use a standard Union, boom, done. You can do that with any vehicle. And the other side's just a return hose, and in this case, they had a remote reservoir on it, apparently. So I just, you know, connected a hose to a hose and done. Power f***ing steering. You know, movie magic, radiator system, Chevy truck red. Nothing like welding to rust. Oh yeah, smell that bacon. And just ran out of air. Yeah, that ain't going anywhere. Solid, like a rock. Like a rock. I put the timing marks back to stock. It seems to run a little bit better. Went ahead, made a better fuel system out of a 1 gallon jug, and it's got tranny fluid pumping through it. Eliminated all air leaks, and still that pump, I'd have to crack the line open to get it running. And once you maintain RPM, it seemed fine, but as soon as you drop down, it would get airlocked. What is this pump doing right now? I think that, you know, 4-year-old AC pump finally but yeah, that's the original AC fuel pump from in 1982 to 1984, 85. So we got this guy down here. Seems better. I don't know. Haven't fired it up. Oh, put a regular oil pressure gauge in. Oh, some kind of Chevy. The reads now says it's about 25-30, so we're good there. We're gonna go ahead and fire this thing up first time today. It's been a few days since it's fired up. We're gonna do a big old burnout for you. Or at least try to. And the fuel pump. We had this on the ignition. So we did this because we thought, you know, things and stuff. Is that on? Yeah. I can't hear it. So we're gonna try starting it without, because we already bled it and it didn't bleed down, so it's easier. It should start and run. Doesn't even stutter or nothing. Yeah. See how far the timing's off? There's a little test you can do, because believe it or not, you have never released specs for any of this diesel engine. You can have the timing probe, blah blah blah. Or you can take a pry bar or screwdriver. Kind of want to do this when the engine's warm. I'm gonna say it's warm enough. So we're gonna press on the advance lever. See, there's the advance down there. No change. So with the advance lever not doing a damn thing, either A, the advance ain't working, or B, the timing's too far advanced that it doesn't make an effect. I actually adjusted to be a little retarded, kind of like me. And believe it or not, that little bit about the width of the line actually can make a whole world of difference. So let's see if this works. And let's see if it starts back up without bleeding anything. Because it ran the whole time. White. Oh, fuel pump is working, so we fixed that problem. I'm actually gonna go and advance it more. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah. The not retarded side.
Yeah, yeah. the Dale car ain't here, we're suffocating to death. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't put your hands in place you will push your deck. I gotta get the out of here. Just fucking purring. Just fucking happy. Cyrus loves burnouts. Well, there we go. Fuel pump fixed it. She runs fucking awesome. Don't you worry. Next episode, we're going to rebuild the transmission, drive it, and finally unbox this surprise.